jealous about me?
Well, I don't know, Alice. Maybe because you're my wife. Maybe because you're the mother of my child. And I know you would never be unfaithful to me.
In the movie Eyes Wide Shut, Tom Cruise is playing a doctor who is infiltrating a kind of secret society where disturbing sexual experiences happen. But before that point, he and his wife are being invited to a party in the beginning of the movie where she can notice that he's flirting with two models around, and he can notice that she, his wife, is flirting with some other man. So when they come back home, they are having some uncomfortable discussion about this whole matter, where ultimately she is going to try to shame him for the lies she has been hiding.
Those two girls at the party last night? Did you, by any chance, happen to fuck them?
What? What are you talking about? I wasn't hitting on anybody.
Who were they?
So she has been smoking pot, and you might attribute her behavior to the fact her mind is a bit elsewhere, but also that kind of comment is initiating a slightly passive-aggressive behavior. Obviously not too harsh at this point, but when you watch the rest of the conversation, you know she was already kind of planning to infuse some negative emotions and some anger into that discussion anyway. The trap that he's falling into, like most men unfortunately, is that he's responding by trying to diffuse with humor what she just said, mirroring with, and what did you like this man dancing with you? But when you do that, you're kind of mirroring her slightly 10% passive-aggressive behavior. That is usually the trap not to fall into, and instead of that, clarify what do you feel about this, because if she's repressing feelings, naturally those feelings will explode and he might lose, and he will lose control of the conversation, as you are going to see.
Anyway, who's the guy you were dancing with?
A friend of the Zigglers.
What did he want?
What did he want? What did he want? Sex. Upstairs.
I guess that's understandable.
Understandable.
Because you are a very, very beautiful woman.
Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait. So, because I'm a beautiful woman, the only reason any man ever wants to talk to me is because he wants to fuck me? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think it's quite that black and white, but I think we both know what men are like.
So on that basis, I should conclude that you wanted to fuck those two models.
So basically from here everything he's going to say is wrong anyway, because he jumped into her frame of attacking him for having done something wrong according to her, and whatever he says he's trying to defend himself within her frame. So whatever he says he's being judged guilty anyway. So he stayed on the line of making some humor, dropping some comment about how beautiful she is. However, since she has already building up some anger inside herself, then again, whatever he says is going to be reframed, just like it is right here, as something negative. Right there, she is reframing with, oh, so when a man is talking to me, it is only because he wants to fuck me. And that's not what he implied, but that is how she can reframe it, because she's deciding of what the conversation means based on how she feels. Unless you target her feelings somewhere else, you won't change her behavior just by arguing with her in that instance. Then he's trying to defend himself by using some kind of cop-out, saying, well, we know how men are, what men are like, so that is going more general on the category those people are part of, which is usually avoiding the main argument. And remember, he's battling within the frame she has dictated anyway. So whatever he says is going to be proven guilty by her judgment in that moment. Which allows her very easily, therefore, to reframe one more time what he meant by changing it as, oh, so based on that, you wanted to fuck those two girls because you are a man yourself. So there is no way to get out of it. He's just stuck into what she wants to put blame on, how she wants to put blame on him in that situation. That is called drawing an abstract consequence or a resulting outcome here based on the phrase that your opponent or interlocutor has just enumerated. A much smarter way to handle that kind of conversation would have been to not answer her questions in that instance and instead challenge her on, why do you ask me this? But if it is said too late, she might get even more angry, whereas if it was said in the very beginning, then she could have unveiled the actual real topic of the conversation and not jump around in every possible hoop so that she maintains her anger in that conversation. And if you want to figure out the best ways to use that model in communication, whatever she says, and whenever you want to pass her test, whether in a dating situation or in an actual relationship, you have 20 of the best phrases and examples down below that will teach you everything you have to know about this technology.
There are exceptions.
What makes you an exception?
What makes me an exception is that I happen to be in love with you. And because we're married, and because I would never lie to you or hurt you.
Do you realize that what you're saying is that the only reason you wouldn't fuck those two models is out of consideration for me, not because you really wouldn't want to?
It's just relax, Alice.
Right there, he's still battling at a lower frequency or level than she is. She's already into fight mode. He's still trying to have a nice conversation with a polite individual, which she's no longer at this point. She jumped into a higher level of aggressiveness, and trying to battle with an opponent at that level of aggressivity or aggressiveness while you are lower, that is usually how you lose a fight. You have to match their level and then decide where you want to lead that conversation eventually, but you can't really battle with somebody who's at that level when you just remain passive and trying to make a compromise. He first says, well, there are exceptions, which is probably the worst line ever to say here, because that is kind of putting something here and then pretending, oh no, I didn't put it here. Well, he was the one saying that men are like this, so not including himself in that statement, whereas he was the one putting that statement on the table firsthand, that's kind of a really bad line to use here. And she's able, therefore, to keep controlling the frame based on what he said, because she's challenging. But what makes you an exception? You use the chunking down, you went more specific on yourself, because I am not like the others. Well, justify that now. And remember, chunking down and going more specific within a frame your attacker has planted in the conversation is always a wrong move anyway. You get out of it by challenging their frame, putting their frame into question. Why do you act like this? Ahead of time, early on, instead of trying to defend yourself in too specific details within their fucking frame. As a new strategy, he's trying to appeal to some moral standard. Well, you're my wife and I would never hurt you. So that is appealing to, humility, to faithful behaviors where you are taking care of the person you care about. That could be an interesting thing to say in itself, but here within that context, that is a bit too late to say that. Not bad in itself, the moral standard, but kind of too late in that example. And because he hasn't addressed her anger and didn't diffuse her emotional state, only tried to remain passive, whereas she was nervously activated in that conversation, she can very easily maintain her logic once again. Because remember, logic is always altered by emotions anyway. Even if you think that you think logically, your emotions are still dictated how you're using your logic to reframe a situation or view that from a different perspective. As a consequence, what she can do here is to reframe his intention. Once again, she's reframing his intention saying, oh, so you still wanted to fuck those two models. You just did not do it because I was here. But if I hadn't been here and if I was not existing, you would have wanted to fuck them anyway. So you can figure out where this is going. There is basically no example, no situation where he can win. She has to win anyway.
Let's say, for example, you have some gorgeous woman standing in your office, naked, and you're feeling her fucking tits. Now, what I want to know, what are you really thinking about when you're squeezing them?
Alice, I happen to be a doctor. It's all very impersonal, and there's always a nurse present.
So when you're feeling tits, it's nothing more than just your professionalism. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, so after you tell her that everything's fine, what then?
What then? I don't know. Alice, what then? Look. Women they basically just don't think like that.
Millions of years of evolution. Right? Right? Men have to stick it in every place they can, but for women it is just about security and commitment and whatever the fuck else.
A little oversimplified, Alice, but yes, something like that.
So now we are approaching to the conclusion and why she was battling so much, whereas he did not do anything wrong in that example, whereas maybe she did, as you're going to see. Initially, right here, she's painting a new hypothetical, but a hypothetical where, once again, he's wrong anyway. When you just battle within the hypotheticals or the frames your opponent is painting or for you, naturally you are wrong anyway. So she's saying, what if? What if based on her worldview? What if when you're squeezing the tits of your patient and she's a beautiful woman, what do you really think when you do this? Again, coming from her logic that whatever he does is wrong anyway. He's trying to cop out one last time by using faith, like a bigger moral standard. Well, I am a doctor. Everything is just impersonal when I touch the body of a patient, whoever it is. Again, not a bad comment in itself. Indeed, a doctor has to become impersonal and stop seeing genitals or a body like being something sensual because it is their job. That could be an interesting statement by itself, but once again, he's responding within her hypothetical, not as a statement he made himself. He's still trying to defend himself based on the attacks she's making, whereas so far she hasn't validated why it was right for her to attack him so much. Because she still hasn't processed her anger, she's redirecting again to one of the consequences, validating her frame. So, okay, you have told them everything was fine. Then what do you think they think? How do you think they want your body? Because maybe they fantasize about you. And he's trying to appeal to a bigger category, once again using women in general, which is the worst thing to do in a man-woman debate like this. Never appeal to the entire category, rather give examples about specific people outside of yourself. But here, he's appealing to the general category. Women don't think like that. They are not like that. And that's a pretty bad statement here, considering he's not a woman himself, or at least I guess he's not identifying as a woman. So his meta-frame statement here is kind of awkward, misplaced, and not really proper logic here, because he doesn't know every woman on earth anyway, and indeed he can't read their mind as he's operating or touching their body. However, the interesting point leading to the conclusion of that clip and that example is that he got all of the arguments she could have out of her mouth and her emotions. Therefore, now she's going to get to the core of the reason why she was so much activated nervously. Because in the end, she is the one who has, and she didn't want to admit it from the beginning.
You're not the jealous type, are you?
No, I'm not.
You've never been jealous about me, have you?
No, I haven't.
And why haven't you ever been jealous about me?
Well, I don't know, Alice. Maybe because you're my wife. Maybe because you're the mother of my child, and I know you would never be unfaithful to me.
You are very, very sure of yourself, aren't you?
So, conclusion, she was projecting all along through her rage bait, her passive-aggressive comments, and her weird, disturbing hypotheticals in which he's the bad guy anyway. She was just projecting potentially the guilt she was processing herself, or maybe the desire she was feeling guilty about, the desire to actually cheat on him again, that she didn't want to process. So instead of processing her feelings, she projected on him. And he was kind of too passive in that example. A better way, again, to handle that kind of conversation would have been to challenge early on, from the very beginning, not once she's already activated, but in the very beginning, challenging, why do you say that? Why do you ask me this? With a very calm tone of voice. What emotions do you feel when you say that? And what emotions do you feel when you say that? It is going to trigger the main spot she was trying to repress to not be authentic and honest with you. When you press gently, not as a douchebag, gently you press on this and you push on that, that displays emotional maturity on your side, that you remain intact and static as you talk, and that way she can process whatever she had to process, and we can maintain a healthy relationship in that sense, which is both true and untrue in that movie. You will see the whole movie later if you want. Remaining with the time we have here, you have the 20 language patterns that can help you defend yourself or remain calm into a conversation of that sort whenever you need to control the frame and whenever you need to pass some test women throw at you, even unconsciously many times. You can see down below with those 20 phrases how to navigate those tough conversations, and whenever they happen, how to remain calm and in control of the situation to make sure you sleep with her, no matter that she's just a girl you met today or somebody you have been in a relationship with for the past 20 years.